doesn't record the pre-show, see if anything comes of it.
I mean,
Or
maybe this is just the show. Maybe this is just how we start the show this week. I mean, what the
here,
not this even like a this week show. This is just a thing that we're doing.
look,
The Oh My Something God Else podcast.
yes, degenerates and reprobates rejoice. Uh, bonus show number 6, if you will. My name is Arya. Joining me is the Jim Barnett to my Ole Anderson. It's Trey. Trey, how the fuck are you today?
Not too bad. I trying to get all this thing that we had the idea to do, and then we were gonna do the like make sure our shit worked beforehand, and then we're just flying by the seat of our pants.
Yes. Isn't that gonna make things fun? Maybe.
Yeah.
Now are you on the page?
I am on the page. The YouTube video cannot be played directly on Watch Together for one of the following Okay, so I need to open it in another window with a still
Okay.
well, hold on.
I,
Are you
so
ready
what we're
to
doing, people, listening to this wonderful conversation we're having, is we're going back in time. We're gonna watch the Omni show that WWE YouTube or WWE Vault on YouTube just posted a few days ago. And I did not write down the day of this show, did you? I know it's
uh
February, like it's this
February
week.
I believe it's February 26th,
That sounds right.
1984.
You know, WWE Omni. And yeah, that wasn't helpful. Oh, February 26th, 1984. Perfect. So yeah, this is what we're gonna do. We are going to watch along, the original idea for the Smoky Mountain Rewatch Along project. And that
Oh.
got boring thanks to Dirty White Boy. Love Dirty White Boy, but there's only so much I could say during 6-minute Dirty White Boy squash matches. Easier for me to say.
Oh, that does sound like a
Um,
lot.
yeah. And if this works out, great. Hell, we might do this, regularly or semi-regularly. Watch some Friday Night Wrestling and go from there. Um, Now, of course, keep in mind when I say if it works out, that usually doesn't mean if people actually listen to the show, because when the hell is people ever listening to this show dictated what we did on this show?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
I
So
can't
how?
get the thing to work, so I'm just gonna I'll just hit play in my own window when you tell me to.
All right. So this should make for a fun thing. Now, make sure to turn your sound off because we don't need that going on.
Right.
Maybe
Okay.
what's it saying anyway? Because
Okay. Okay, click to focus to view. Okay, okay, so is it on? I think it's on. Hold on. I think it's working.
okay, I haven't pressed
I
play
I
yet,
just
so if it's
yeah, it just made a yeah. Yeah, it just made
okay.
a, different video. Like it made a different window. For some reason, it wouldn't play it in that window, so it made it its own window, and now I have a little play bar from the Watch Together on it. So I'm assuming this will work.
I'm assuming that once I press play, it'll just start playing for both of us. All
Yeah,
right. So,
well,
yeah, this is Georgia Championship Wrestling, February 26th, 1984, from Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. And I won't go into the whole history because I've got a whole bunch of notes to go over during the show because the show's an hour and 47 minutes long. And I'm fairly confident that you and I are not going to sit here with rapt attention and just watch wrestling nonstop for an hour and 47 minutes. We're probably going to need something to talk about. And I've got some notes to
sure.
discuss. And, if anything pops into your head, you know, feel free
I'm
to.
sure I'm sure I'll think of something to say. I am I have I don't know. I've never known to become disinterested when I was watching the professional wrestling, so I imagine we'll find something to talk about.
Yeah. All right. I doubt we're going to do a whole lot of play by play, though. But I guess we'll see.
Well, we'll
All right.
see.
So are you ready to go?
I am, yeah.
All right, so let's press play. I know that because I started watching it a few days ago before we came up with this idea. I started watching a few days ago, so I know just there's no intro. It's just gonna go right into
Yeah.
the introductions of the first match, and we're pressing, and we have it on mute, so it's like, it's not gonna be he listening to us in the background. All right, so I'm gonna start playing it now, and let's see where this takes us, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
All right, there we go. Do you have video?
No, nothing's happening. Hold on.
All right, so we're going into the ring now for our first match. It's going to be Jessie Bar versus Pez Watley. Um, and is it going over there?
No, yeah, are you at like 26 seconds right now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
All right, great. Um, so Jessie Bar versus Pez Watley. Now, Jessie Bar, as a lot of people know, son of Sandy Bar, brother of Art Bar. He's one of those ultimate 80s journeymen because he was everywhere. Um, but he never really went anywhere. Like I think most people, if they know him as Jimmy Jack Funk in the 86 WWF when
Oh.
Terry Funk quit. And so they brought him in as the fake Funk brother. Actually, was he a brother or was he like a cousin? I don't quite remember,
No,
but
I don't think Jimmy Jack was a brother. I think he was a cousin.
yeah, I
Uh,
mean, either way, it was, um, and you know, he was brought in to replace Terry Funk, and with all due respect to Jessie Bar, it's a bit of a step down, you know.
okay, to be fair, unless your name is like Brian Danielson or Kenta Kobashi or somebody of that level, you're a downgrade from Terry Funk.
For some reason, I was wondering where you were going to go with that one. Uh, Pez Watley, he's one of those guys you kind of wonder if he should have gotten more because he was like one of those people. He was a very popular undercard babyface in Jim Crockett, and they turned him heel, and he had a really good run, and arguably probably the best run of his career was part of the Jive Tones as Shaska Watley teaming with Tiger Conway Jr.
Yeah, okay, I've never thought Pez Watley was the shits or anything, but he's a mid Carter. With all due respect,
Yeah,
with all due
well,
respect, because I have a lot of respect for mid Carters and journeymen and even like career enhancement guys. But yeah,
yeah. I'm not saying like he needed more than being a mid Carter, but like I don't even think he was really a mid Carter. Like he was by and large that opening first two or three matches of the show, you know,
yeah.
and he was a perfectly good wrestler for those first two or three matches on the show. Just you kind of wonder mm, if they could have done a little bit more with him, you know.
Do you know
He
offhand
was
how much
definitely.
older? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hmm? I was
I
going to
was just
say
gonna.
he it's Tuesday again, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, but he definitely had the charisma. He had the jive down. I think they could. I think they could have done more. I don't think he could have if like the jive tones could have been like the world tag team champions, but like they could have been US champions during that 87, 88 run.
I'm sorry. Who was the other jive tone?
It was Tiger Conway Jr.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay, do you know offhand how much older Jesse is than Art?
Oh, I've got no idea. I didn't look that up.
It,
I mean, Art was really young when he died, so I don't
okay.
like.
Think about like wrestling siblings. How many cases is the younger sibling the better one? Like it's not a lot.
I guess it depends on what your definition of better is. Let's hear. It looks like 7 years,
Yeah.
roughly.
'Cause
So
like
I guess it depends on what your thought of better is, because like if you ask Bret Hart, Owen was better than him. But I think a lot of fans would disagree, even though there's obviously a lot of respect for Owen Hart. I think a
yeah.
lot of people would disagree that, Owen was better, but that's what Bret believed.
At least Brett doesn't have the false modesty to say that any other of his siblings were anywhere close.
He did not talk about Diana Smith's quote unquote run in glowing terms. Um,
It's
Now,
like,
by the way, we should know like this is an opener of a house show in the 80s, and I think we talked about this before, but the opener of the show didn't become like this big deal on a regular basis until like
right,
the mid 2000s.
right. The
Like I
opener
know
was just a
like
prelim.
yeah, and honestly like well, I don't know about this time, but when you get to the WWF in the mid to late 80s, here was every house show opener. Jobber versus jobber in a 20-minute time limit draw.
Pretty much,
Like
yeah.
yeah, and if you think I'm making that up, go watch any of those house shows they got on Peacock. You know, like yeah, you'd occasionally get a finish, but it was there. It was not there to have a good match with a winner and a loser. It was there basically to warm the crowd up, and
You were there
that's
to
what it
fill
was.
time while people filed into their seats.
Exactly. And for the weirdos like me who get to show super duper early, they would get to
Me
watch
too.
Iron Mike Sharp versus, SD Jones for 20 minutes. I don't
For
know
the
why those were the
sickos.
first two jobbers I could think of. We'd be
For
sitting
the
next to Tony
sickos.
Khan. Yeah.
Hey, Red, do you know who's older, Penta or Phoenix?
I'm pretty sure Penta.
I think so too.
I
Okay. So Phoenix, uh Matt and Nick and Matt and Jeff, I think, are both very debatable. I think it's very close.
oh yeah. By the way, Penta's 40.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he was
I
that old.
I
Phoenix is
will
34.
I will make an incisive statement that I think Phoenix is a lot better than Penta.
I think Phoenix is definitely a lot more spectacular. Um, I guess again, it depends on what you consider as better. By the way, it's Penta's birthday 2 days ago, so happy
Oh
40th
yeah,
birthday to Penta.
happy birthday, Penta. No
Yeah,
disrespect. I
no,
respect your Cero Miedo.
yes.
It was
Um,
like with like Matt and Nick, like I'd say Nick is like the more athletic worker, but Matt's a really smart worker. Like one of these days, people will appreciate Matt Jackson's match psychology. He's brilliant.
my thing always with the Young Bucks, it's not that they don't know how to have like a psychologically sound match, and I'm not going to sit here and disparage them for an hour, but it's like like a Young Bucks match is not a 90s or 80s tag team match. It is very much a moves match with
Yeah,
2025 version of psychology. But
yeah,
sometimes they'll just get it in their heads to spite people. By the way, Pez Watley is just one with a diving headbutt. Sometimes Young Bucks will just get it in their head to spite people by having a good psychology match. Like, I don't know how well
yeah.
it is for the whole psychology thing. Like, I remember they wrestled, I think it was Santana and Ortiz on an AEW pay-per-view, and it's like, holy shit, we're full of psychology tonight. What got up their asses?
It's kind of like they do it just to flex sometimes. Like when people start getting a little too shitty about that they don't know, like we'll show you motherfuckers. There's some wrestlers
Yeah.
that are just like that. That they okay. Jim Cornette likes to tell a story about who was it that Murdoch was working a fucking like house show loop with, like Nikolai Volkoff or something, and it so
I
Cornette told Murdoch, they're saying you can't get a good match out of Volkoff. Oh they
oh
are
uh
they?
Nikita Koloff.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah. Um by the way, up next it's the spoiler with Paul Ellering versus Johnny Rich. Now, Paul Ellering is here because um yeah, this does not really take some explaining to do, but everyone thinks of the Legion of Doom as Hawk and Animal, but the
Right, it was the
entire
whole stable.
stable,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was the spoiler, and we're gonna have Jake Roberts later. They were all part of the Legion of Doom,
Now
with the spoiler.
is that referee Scrappy McGowan?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it looks like at least with the hair.
Yeah.
Um, Now, spoiler, we're gonna say this a lot about people, but when the WWF or when Vince officially buys Georgia and the lawsuits go away in a few months, Spoiler is one of those guys that do get a run in the WWF, and he's actually there for a year, and he goes in, I believe, still has the national champion, and he
Yes,
brings the national title to the WWF.
the very, very short-lived WWF National Championship, where
Yeah.
Spoiler was the only champion. He was awarded the title, and then the title was abandoned with him never losing it.
And I think we can say the same about what's his name? Les Thornton goes in as the junior heavyweight champion, which is weird because they had a junior heavyweight title. Like there's one of those best of the WWF tapes that they had the Cobra versus Tiger Mask for the
No,
junior heavyweight title in like
yeah,
83.
the WWF Junior Heavyweight title was based in New Japan. That
Yeah.
like that was the belt
'Cause
that Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid were fighting over.
that became part of the J Crown that was
No,
featured in WCW.
no, that was the WWF Light Heavyweight title, the original version, which was controlled by the UWA in Mexico.
I apologize. Well, that takes away my
I'm sorry,
knowing
I'm a
about
title
that,
history
but
nerd. I'm such a title history
damn,
nerd.
damn you. Um, so
But if you've ever
since we're
watched,
since, mhm, go
if you've
ahead.
ever watched the original Super J Cup, the 1994 Super J Cup, at the end of the show, the belt that Tatsumi Fujinami presents to Chris Benoit is his old WWF Junior Heavyweight title belt.
Oh, nice. Um, so well, I'm just gonna tell the fucking story anyway, even though I'm talking about the wrong title at this point. But when they brought in Ultimo Dragon, WCW, when they brought in Ultimo Dragon as the J Crown champion, and he'd
Mm-hmm.
come out as but he'd only have seven title belts. It's because the eighth one was the WWF Light Heavyweight title. And
Mm-hmm.
even though it was controlled by the UWA in Mexico,
Yeah.
it was like
By this time, by this time,
we
custody had shifted over to Michinoku Pro. But yeah,
well, okay, but it's like it was still like they're erring on the side of caution here, even
yeah,
though in reality, you can't it is, but it isn't a WWF title. You know what I mean? It's like
you're right.
we don't need a lawsuit over this. So if you ever go back and
Right.
watch and wonder why Ultimo Dragon only has seven titles instead of eight, that's why. So
But in
I
the
guess
most technical sense of the terminology, uh, there was a WWF championship defended on WCW cards during the Monday Night Wars.
yep. By the way, I don't think I may have mentioned this, but I
Oh
don't think I
shit.
did. The
Oh, I've
spoilers
heard of
wrestling
this. I've never
Johnny
seen him do
Rich.
it. I've heard of
Spoiler
this. I've
is
never seen him do it. The spoiler rope walk. Every like Jim Ross would always reference the spoiler doing it when the Undertaker would do it. But
Don
yeah,
Jardine,
I
yeah.
don't think I've yeah I've never seen him do it. That was cool.
He didn't really walk. Well, I guess he kind of. I mean, when you think
Not
about it, like
far. He didn't go
he didn't
far.
do he didn't do the Undertaker rope walk,
No,
but
no, he
he
didn't.
did walk out a little bit. So he's wrestling
Yeah.
Johnny Rich, and just a few notes. The spoiler, he leaves WWF after about a year, and we're going to see him in World Class in '87. Even though he's not a direct replacement for Lance Von Erich, he comes in around the time Lance leaves, and he stays until the end of the year. And at that point, I think he retires after that point.
Yeah,
Um,
sounds about
John,
right.
and speaking of brothers, Johnny Rich, the brother of Davey Rich, not to be confused with Davey Richards, and Tommy Rich, greatest NWA World Champion of all time, and is honestly like I don't want to say he's a career jobber, but he's basically a career jobber. Him and Davey actually did make a good team, and in the early days of Smoky Mountain, they were known as the Party Patrol. And actually, the first Volunteer Slam, it was originally scheduled for like the second week in May, but for some strange, odd, unknown reason, it had, oh, here's the rope walk by the spoiler, and
Oh
walking
yeah.
all
Oh cool.
he's walking all the way into the middle of the ring.
Oh,
But
this is cool.
uh,
Yeah. Badass.
but
Oh shit.
Johnny Johnny just heaved him off. He,
Oh,
he
this man out there taking bumps in the Omni. Look at him.
now Um, by the way, the first volunteer slam, since the date got pushed back a week, the Fantastics, who were supposed to, the original plan was the Fantastics versus the Heavenly Bodies in the finals of the Smoky Mountain Tag Team Title Tournament on that show. But when the show got pushed back a week, the Fantastics were already going to be in Japan that week. So they had to do the finals of the tournament on TV, and then the Party Patrol got the Volunteer Slam title match instead.
Okay, cool.
Um, yeah, so there's your Johnny Rich trivia.
Now
So by the
who's
way,
who's the
go
oldest?
ahead.
Who's the youngest? Because Tommy was the best
I,
one, right? Who was
I,
out of the
I, I, I believe Tommy may have been the oldest. Let's see here. Tommy's born in 56. Let's
Okay,
see
okay,
here.
here's one that's really debatable. I want to see what you think. Matt and Jeff.
I think at like I don't. It's hard to say. Like this is going to be mean, but like at their peaks, I would say Matt was a better wrestler at their peak. But I think Jeff, as an overall wrestler, as an overall career, was a better worker overall than Matt was.
Uh,
Because Matt, I'm not
Jeff's
saying Matt was a
body,
bad worker.
and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's entirely possible that it was like because of the drugs, weirdly, but Jeff's body held up better over the years.
Yeah, that definitely. By the way, just want to get in some Georgia information since we kind of halfway started talking about it.
Oh, the claw.
So
Hey, wait, what the shit? Hey, I was specifically told that the claw was banned in Georgia. What is this bullshit?
are you trying to tell me that they lied to us on World Class?
Mercer lied to me.
And he won
Oh,
with the claw too. The spoiler wins with the claw and he won't break it. But Scrappy McGowan won't count to five apparently. One, two, three, four, and now he's trying to pull him
he
off.
counted to four twice, and now he's trying to pull him off. Oh,
Uh yeah. Two, three. Up after an 11 count, basically, the spoiler is still declared the winner. Poor Johnny Rich is getting screwed here.
we're gonna. I'm gonna write the Georgia State Athletic Commission about that. See if I can get that result overturned. That's bullshit.
Now, which part are you going to specify? Just the claw or the fact that he used the claw for 11 seconds with the referee not doing anything?
I think I'm gonna mention both.
Okay.
Here's
By the way, so the
Pez Watley and some of the other undercard guys to help poor Johnny Rich.
I'd say is
Who's
that
wearing a
Horner?
mask?
But Horn, I don't know. Maybe it's Mr. R. Um, but somebody like I thought it might have been Horner, but I doubt that that's Horner there in the red shirt.
Can't see his
Looking at
face, but it looks
maybe
like Terry
Tommy
Taylor.
Rogers. Yeah, I'm looking at the rest of the people wrestling on
But
the
Terry's in
show.
Louisiana.
Yeah, Tommy Rogers maybe, um, or maybe Les Thornton. Because I mean, it's
I don't
definitely
know.
looking at the card. It's definitely not the Road Warriors, King Kong Bundy, Stan Hansen, Jake Roberts, Nikolai Volkoff, or Wahoo. Oh Lord.
Oh
I swear
Lord.
at some point I'm gonna mention the Georgia history or what's going on in Georgia that I looked up. But Mr. R is coming out. Now, Mr. R is Tommy Rich, greatest NWA world champion of all time. And he's wearing a mask because, and I know you'll be shocked to hear this, Tommy Rich lost a loser leaves town match, and now is coming back wearing a mask. Um, feel like we're watching that on like every show now. And he's wrestling Ted DiBiase, who we haven't seen since he left Mid
Oh,
South a few months ago. He basically left Mid South, and with the exception of his Japanese tours, he pretty much went to Georgia immediately to begin feuding with Tommy Rich. And I think it's one of those things where it's like Tommy Rich is one of those people, like especially nowadays, it's kind of easy to make fun of him, but it cannot be understated just how popular he was in this time period, 1980, 1981, 82, 83. Like I know it's like it doesn't mean a whole lot now because everybody gets a run with the belt, but he got a week with the NWA World Title, and it wasn't just because he sucked Barnett's dick, you know.
the only the only other time that they did that was like The times that Giant Baba would pay Harley Race and Jack Briscoe 10 grand to drop the belt to him for a week in Japan.
Yep. So by the way, he lost the Lose Leaves Town match as Tommy Rich on December 25th. And then, because this is 1984 or 1983 at this point, there's no internet. So Tommy Rich then wrestled Ted DiBiase on Georgia Championship Wrestling shows held in West Virginia, Ohio, and Michigan before they went back to Georgia and he became Mr. R.
Well, was it a?
Um,
But it was a loser leaves Georgia match, though, right?
I I when I looked on Cage, well, when I looked on Cage Match, it just said loser leaves town. So
Okay, well,
maybe
Atlanta. The last time I checked, Atlanta is not in West Virginia. Is it right next to Jellicoe, Virginia, Aria?
yes, it is. Um, but yeah.
You know, there's an
So,
Atlanta,
but
Texas, a
I'm
little town in
I'm
East
sure there
Texas.
is.
I see the sign or go through it when I'm going to Arkansas, Atlanta, Texas.
How about Philadelphia, Mississippi? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with Philadelphia, Mississippi. That's
Mhm.
that I don't even want to go into the history of Philadelphia, Mississippi. It's gonna ruin everybody's nice time.
That's probably for the best. Um, let's see. Now, so okay, so I really got to talk about my Georgia history here because
Yeah, yeah.
I want actually. Okay, all right. So, um, as a this may be a lot of shit that people already know, but just in case. So Georgia was partially owned by a whole bunch of shareholders. The primary ones were Ole Anderson, Jim Barnett, and Jack and Jerry Briscoe. And there were some minor shareholders. I think one of them was Jim Barnett's. I don't know if they were actually together or not, but one of his friends owned a piece too. So Jim Barnett was essentially in charge of the company, and the other owners were getting pissed because their dividend checks for being the shareholders were getting smaller and smaller, while Barnett was living in the lap of luxury. And so one day, Ole Anderson basically did a hostile takeover. Think about when Vince did a hostile takeover to take back the WWE a few years ago. Ole, I didn't he threaten to throw Barnett out a window
Yeah, I think
at what?
so.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the
so.
story anyway. Yeah. Um, and
Now,
so
okay, it's the rules. You cannot talk about Jim Barnett without giving us my
my boy,
boy.
yes, I'm ashamed to say this. I could not remember his fucking name, so I did a Google search for gay wrestling promoter my boy.
That's fantastic. Oh my god.
And
Oh, I got to tell a story on the
thankful.
podcast. Can I go off topic while we watch while we watch
Oh,
these guys work this headlock?
oh my God, why would we ever go off topic? Go ahead.
So yesterday, I have a friend who's a blind guy who has a tech company, and he goes around and he'll do training sessions for people with technology, and I drive for him on the long drive sometimes. It pays pretty pretty decent. So yesterday we go to see a guy who's a friend of his. He's about 60 years old. He was born blind, but he went deaf about 6 years ago. So the way you speak to him is he has a QWERTY keyboard connected to a braille display, and you type to him, and it like he was reading braille as fast as I could type, and I'm a pretty decent typist. And you could tell he would respond verbally, and he was kind of yelling, but you kind of had to listen to him. But you could tell his mind was sharp as a tack, and he's really friendly and funny guy. And so we were, and at one point, my wife, who had gone with us for like a day trip, was just chatting with him about politics and the state of the world. And the highlight of my day was just hearing a deaf blind man suddenly yell, "Trump can bite my ass." I hope
Oh
that it's gone
Lord,
silent because Arya's laughing so hard over there. Is
I
that?
am. I popped.
Oh,
Oh
that was
Lord,
great.
how do people not love this show? I don't get it.
Uh, well, you told me that we're creeping up in viewership on the Smoky Mountain reviews, apparently.
I don't know what the hell happened, but we had like 51 listeners already, which I know sounds like shit, but I mean, you see the rest of our viewership, it's not a secret. Um, and the funny thing is, only one person has given us a like or dislike so far to those 51. And of course, it was a fucking dislike. It's like, thanks,
Dick.
guy. And thanks everybody else for not evening out those numbers. Um, but so by the way, to kind of go back to what I was saying, so everyone remembers Black Saturday, or not everyone remembers because most of us weren't, alive at that point, but everyone knows about Black Saturday when Vince McMahon suddenly showed up on WTBS. It wasn't an overnight thing. And this was because I'm me, so I wanted to get the exact date. It was a lot harder than it should have been for me to find the actual date. Because when you do a Google search and look for like when did Vince buy Georgia Championship Wrestling, the answer comes up as Black Saturday, July 23rd, 1984. I'm like, that is
Right.
not the
Yeah.
day he bought it.
Right.
So I did find it. By the way, people are interfering and people are attacking Mr. R, and Ted DiBiase has been disqualified.
You know
Um,
something funny? On one of the shows the other day, we were talking
oh
about
my
Gerald
God, it's
Briscoe.
Tommy Rich.
Ah, I'll be
He,
damned.
I mean, I guess we
So
don't. Technically, it's in the shadows, but he took off his mask, and obviously Ted DiBiase is a little irate, and the spoiler and whoever the hell else that is not happy.
no.
But yeah, Mr. R wins via disqualification. I was wondering why this match was not that long, because it seems like the kind of match that would go 20 minutes. So they wrote down the
Yeah.
timestamps because WWE Vault put them in the comment section.
Seems early in the
Um,
card for it, but I guess we got a world title match and other stuff coming. So I bet
well,
that
speaking
world
of
title
world
match is gonna
title
get some
matches,
time too. Oh, is this it?
here's a
Oh
world
no.
title match. It is
Oh,
the World
okay.
Junior Heavyweight title match.
Oh, all right. That's Les
Les
Thornton, right?
Yep, Les Thornton versus Tommy Rogers, and
All
Tommy
right.
Rogers is
Hey.
our Terry Taylor guy, Terry Taylor,
Okay,
Tim
yeah.
Horner that we couldn't figure out. Um,
Tommy Rogers, best known as one half of the Real Fantastics with Bobby
yes,
Fulton.
not to be confused with Jackie Fulton, who what was his name in All Japan? George Hines or something?
Yeah, so there
Eh,
was a George Hines. I
yeah,
didn't know that was Jackie Fulton, but yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Jackie Fulton. Now, watch, it'll turn out to not be true, but and it's funny because like I don't think they're really related, Bobby and Jackie Fulton, but they do look a lot alike.
Yeah.
Um, so Les Thornton is another one of those guys who goes to the WWF when they buy out the company. As eventually I'm going to get through the story here, hopefully in the next hour and 20 minutes. But his style does not work in the WWF, and I know it's like, oh man, they brought in a great technical wrestler like Les Thornton. They did not give a shit about the great technical wrestler Les Thornton in Vince McMahon's WWF in 1984.
Yeah.
He does not have the personality to be in WWF in 1984. He has a good body, like that. Like he's actually a little bit thicker than I remembered he was. So I mean, when you think of a junior heavyweight, you're thinking of a lot smaller guy. But he's not a small man by any stretch of the imagination. He's just smaller.
Let's
And he would
now
actually
I'm go ahead.
hmm? he would actually stay in the
I
WWF until he retires in 1987.
yeah, and Mick Foley's it's like his second match ever, his first WWF
Yep,
enhancement match. It was Mick Foley and Les Thornton against the British Bulldogs.
yep. And I
Sorry,
always love that
Cactus Jack
story. And Mick,
Foley.
oh, he was
Jack
wasn't he
Foley, yeah.
Jack Foley? Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Foley,
But
yeah.
I love that story in Mick's book where he's like, okay, Les Thornton's in there with Dynamite and Davey, and they're putting on fine technical wrestling, and then they tag in the 19-year-old kid, and he's like, they can make an announcement that goes, ladies and gentlemen, the wrestling part of this match has just concluded.
Yeah.
Poor Mick Foley.
Yeah.
So these guys are gonna get some time. By the way, here's a plug for the Oh My God cast, even though it's not going to be for a few years. Tommy Rogers is going to get a run in ECW.
Yeah, that
He,
sounds
he
cool.
he's there for 18 months. You
Oh.
know, yeah. Um, And it's funny because it's one of those things where it's like it happened. I know it happened because I'm me, but it's funny because like it's you look back at it like, wait, this guy was in Paul Heyman's ECW, not Eddie Gilbert's ECW, not WWE ECW, but hardcore blood and guts barbed wire ECW. Yes, that Tommy Rogers is in that ECW.
But I mean, it
Uh,
fucking Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, they were in ECW too.
yeah, yeah.
ECW had a
But
lot of
here,
great technical wrestlers pass through.
oh yeah,
By the
yeah,
way, I just want to mention very briefly, speaking of great technical wrestlers who passed through ECW, Osamu Nishimura
Nishimura.
passed away
Yeah.
yesterday of cancer, which I remember him when I first started watching Japanese wrestling about 20 years ago, he was making his comeback from cancer. So it took
Hmm.
cancer a hell of a long time to kill him. He's a tough man, but R.I.P.
Yeah.
Osamu Nishimura.
Yeah. Um, I know like I this is a bad segue and leave it to us to do a bad segue, I know. But did you ever watch that ECW home video release of the NWA title tournament? Which I mean it wasn't really, they showed like some clips, they showed the final, the Shane Sabu match, and they showed a bunch of
Uh,
afterwards stuff. I don't know why they never released that entire show, um
it's
anyway, they included
it is though, right? I have the show. I have a restored
it's
version
not
of it. I
it's
thought.
not the whole show.
Is it
Like
not?
unless somebody went in there and did a lot of funky editing, like
Oh,
ECW never released the actual show. They released a show that was called the NWA Title Tournament, but it was like it's mostly actually they show a lot of TV stuff, and then they show a few tournament matches along with the final, and then show a bunch of aftermath stuff. So the reason why I bring that up is because God bless Dean Malenko. He is a fantastic wrestler, or was a fantastic wrestler. Talking was not his strong point. And I always have to
no.
laugh because ECW, we hide the weaknesses, we emphasize the strengths. And there's a fucking, by the way, Scrappy McGowan has been like the referee for every fucking match, just shoved Tommy Rogers over on his side headlock when Les Thornton tried to pin him.
Huh.
Um,
Oh.
but
Oh
so
shit.
Dean,
That was neat.
yeah, but yeah,
Oh, the way
there's,
he came out of that cradle and did like a little really low. That was cool as shit. That little
yeah,
Taharis thing. This is.
mhm.
Oh yeah. Oh, I told you. I said on the podcast the other night. I'm a fucking technical wrestling pervert.
This was the wrong time to start talking about other stuff. But so Dean Malenko cuts this horrendously awful promo that he needed the Tim Horner rule. He needed 30 seconds and go to somebody else because he starts talking about the NWA title tournament and he just keeps going. And it's like 2 minutes long. And like they just cut him off mid sentence and just moved to something else. Like, what took you so long?
Wow, the promo was so bad they started playing our podcast.
I know, right? Which is really fucked up, but oh God, poor Dean Malenko. Great wrestler, bad promo. Actually, like
Is he gonna
he
do a
gets,
headstand? Oh
I don't know,
no.
Les Thornton is fighting it.
It would be a fitting tribute to Osamu Nishimura if he did a headstand right here.
Thank you, Tommy Rogers, 41 years ago this week, paying tribute to Osamu Nishimura. He knew obviously what was going to
Yeah,
happen. I don't
absolutely.
know. He looks like he's trying to push through to roll
Oh,
up on up. Yeah. Oh, go for the sharpshooter.
I just want to say, fuck Vince McMahon for making Americans think that technical wrestling was boring.
It wasn't you and me. It was I was on the Angry Mark show the other night. We were talking about Lance Storm, and we talked about how like it's a travesty that like
Uh-huh.
WWE made it so like people think that he's boring. And like he's got a very dry personality, but he's not boring. And then the
He's
problem was they did that boring gimmick, and Jerry Lawler, who doesn't do production meetings, you know, he did not say that Lance's personality was boring. He turned it into
yeah.
wrestling was
Yeah.
boring. And that's
It's so dumb. And if you've listened to Lance as much as you and I have, like, he's so funny. He
Yes.
has a very, very dry sense of humor, but he's
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah. And by the way, just to plug for a show that's not paying us because they'd really have to sink to new lows to be paying us for this plug. Figure Four Daily or whatever just got released today. It's a free episode, so you don't even need to pay for it. And it's Lance Storm answering questions for an hour.
Oh,
And
nice. I'm gonna have to check that
yeah,
out.
it was pretty good, you know. Um,
You know, this is I've kind of just had a lot kind of going on this week. Amazingly, all of the wrestling that I have watched this week, I watched the Smoky Mountain show that we reviewed on Tuesday.
Thursday.
I watched Dynamite, and now I'm watching this. That's the only wrestling I've watched all week.
By the way, since you apparently don't remember what day our shows air, the Smoky Mountain show is
Thursday.
on Thursday. Yes.
Okay, I tried so hard. I
I
tried.
mean,
I
it helps
got
that's when we record the shows Tuesday, not to,
it is.
spoil
Okay.
things for the listeners here. Um, by the way, I do want to mention because I started telling the story and then stopped in the middle for Mr. R's finish. April 9th, 1984 was when Jack and Jerry Briscoe, Jim Barnett, and the minority shareholders, other than Ole Anderson, who equaled whatever percentage it was more than 50%, and they sold their shares to Vince McMahon. And this led to a lawsuit because Ole, I, it must have just been an assumption, not so much an official thing, but Ole claimed that there was a rule in place that if any of the shareholders wanted to sell out, they had to first offer it to the other shareholders.
Yeah.
And it went to court. And I mean, I don't know how the hell the court ruled this fucking quickly, or maybe just Ole threw in the towel. But 3 months later, Vince is on TBS, you know?
Hmm.
So it's like, that's how Georgia Championship Wrestling, because it's not like, as we all know this by now, but he did not buy Georgia Championship Wrestling so he could continue Georgia Championship Wrestling as a satellite
No.
territory. He bought
No.
it so he could basically acquire some talent, anybody who wanted to come in. And it's actually amazing. Look at all these people on this show, and most of them are still considered Georgia Championship Wrestling guys come July, and like four people go to the WWF. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. And then Ole gets the time slot from Turner for like 7 o'clock in the morning to do championship wrestling from Georgia, and outdraws Vince at 6:05.
When
And
is Bundy going? I know he goes in the next year.
I think, and I don't know why I didn't look him up, but I think he goes when they buy the company, when Vince
Oh, well, that
buys
makes
it.
sense.
Yeah,
That makes
I
sense.
don't know. I looked up everybody else, but I didn't bother looking up King Kong Bundy, which is kind of sad. Um,
The only
let's
one of them to
see.
main event WrestleMania.
Ted DiBiase. Well, he doesn't go
Okay,
over at this
to be
point,
fair,
but you know, yeah.
that's valid.
And I mean, I know somebody might. I would argue Ric Flair. Like I know, like I know it was really whatchamacallit. It was really Hogan in his quote unquote last match as the main event of WrestleMania 8. But Flair was the fucking WWF champion, and that's as close as you're going to get to an actual double headliner. And by the way, Bundy does not go to the WWF at all in 1984 because he's
Oh,
all over the place actually. He's in AWA, he's in Memphis, he's in Central States. It's like I
yeah.
I had to laugh because I clicked on 1984 and I got Germany and I kept scrolling down to find WWF. Um, he's doing some New Japan tours, but that might be because I think they were with the WWF at the time. But yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't. Jesus Christ. So mentioned this with Ricky Steamboat years ago.
Yeah.
How Ricky Steamboat was in Jim Crockett Promotions until February 28th, 1985, and then is on the first WrestleMania. King Kong Bundy doesn't debut in the WWF until March 5th, 1985,
Oh,
and he's
wow.
on WrestleMania 1. Yeah,
Yeah. The 8 second squash that lasted 21 seconds.
according to Cage Match, 25 seconds. And by the way, this really tells the difference between back in the day and today. between March 5th, when he debuted, and March 31st, which was WrestleMania, he wrestled 18 matches for the WWF.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a lot of matches. Um,
We talked about this on the Mid South podcast. Like the reason that we thought Nikolai Volkoff sucked was that we've only seen him like after he had been ground into powder by that schedule.
yeah. So
Like the seven beats of the Baldwin or whatever Sheamus calls that thing. Tommy Rod.
yeah,
Oh, neat. Oh, okay. I thought that was gonna be the finish. It was wonky enough that they would get some weird controversial finish out
up
of it.
like a double pin finish. Yeah, they
Yeah.
are working towards a
Oh,
finish, and this is a really good
nice drop
match.
kick.
And
Yeah, yeah, really.
yeah,
Oh shit.
like
Oh, did you see a fucking shotgun drop kick
yeah,
that Bumpy took? Jeez.
oh yeah. I I mean, it's not a
Tommy
shotgun drop
Rogers
kick they pick up
rules.
in 2020. Oh, yeah, Tommy Rogers. Like, I'm not saying he's underrated because I think he's very well rated towards the
Yeah.
people who notice these things. But yeah, like Les Thornton, like to be honest, like I can't say I've ever seen a whole lot of Les Thornton, like outside of like,
Oh,
TV job or TV enhancement roles. Well, the top rope sunset flip for a two
that
count by
was awesome. Oh,
by the way,
O'Connor roll.
oh, I thought he was going for the
Oh, cut
natural
back.
bridge. I'm
Oh,
like Tim Horner.
Schoolboy. Oh,
Schoolboy,
he's got the tights. I think he got the
has he got the
tights.
tights?
I thought he
Oh,
had the tights.
Les Thornton, you son of a bitch, grabbing the tights. Mate, yeah, Tommy Rogers is indicating holding the tights. Les Thornton is still your world junior heavyweight
Ugh.
champion. What a
That was a hell
world
of a match.
champion. Yeah.
That was a world championship match right there.
Honestly, like I know it's 1984, I know it's 2025, I know this is 1984. I'd give it fucking 4 stars.
I
Like,
have to
I know
watch
we
it
watched,
again, but I'm really like I'm in that range too.
yeah. I know we watched it on mute, so we may not hear what the crowd is doing, but
Okay, I'm cheating. I actually have the crowd noise on because I have headphones on, so I can
I've,
hear
I've
it and it not interfere with hearing you.
well, I got headphones on too. I just didn't want to play it just in case, it uh I was having trouble hearing
Very,
you or
very
whatever.
low. Having a very,
Yeah.
very low.
But which one? That's Tommy Rogers, but Les Thornton getting into it with the crowd. It's like um so we'll get into the crowd here in a minute, and because you might wonder why did all these guys sell out on Oli? It's not just because Oli's a dick. But now we're going to a match featuring somebody you and I know very
Oh,
well, Nikolai Volkoff,
oh,
versus Wahoo McDaniel.
all right. Yeah,
Um,
let's do this.
yeah. Now, this is the start of the transition that Volkov is doing to Georgia. He's going to go back and forth until I think May, splitting his time between Mid-South and Georgia. And then he's going to go to Georgia full time. But he's one of those guys that when Vince buys Georgia, he ends up in the WWF. And I'll be honest, like as much as we say, like we never saw any good Nikolai Volkov until we saw him in Mid-South, this was the best option for him because he was right where he should be at that point, to be
Yeah,
honest. Now,
yeah.
Wahoo McDaniel, I'll be honest, maybe you have a different opinion, and hey, how dare you not agree with everything I say? But Wahoo McDaniel is one of those guys. He gets a ton of respect by everybody for being a legendary tough guy, and I'm sure he was undoubtedly like, he was an NFL football player, I think, for the Jets for years. But I have never seen a Wahoo match that I've cared for because of Wahoo. Like, yeah, if I watch Flair versus Wahoo, but I'm watching Flair. If like when we were doing the Mid-Atlantic shows on Angry Marks, he's feuding with Piper a little bit, and I'm watching it because of Piper. I'm not watching Wahoo because I'm, enjoying Wahoo.
Well, maybe he was just a supporting character that people had a lot of respect for.
Yeah.
I don't have. There's one question that I really want to ask Stan Hansen, just because Stan Hansen is the only person I can think of who could answer it. I want to know
Hmm.
who chopped harder, Wahoo McDaniel or Kenta Kobashi.
I think you brought this up on the show before.
I think I mentioned it before, but yeah, the only person I can think of who would have been chopped by both would be Stan Hansen.
Now, like I mentioned, you may be wondering why, all these guys sold out to Oli. It's because, yeah, or not all of them sold out to Vince. Like, yeah, Ole took over, but he realized that Barnett was not just stiffing them on these royalty checks. This company was losing money, and it wasn't even funny at this point. This show in the Omni, like the Omni holds what, 15, 16,000 people for a wrestling show. This show drew 3,500. And to be honest,
Dad,
that
no.
was right in the range of what they'd been drawing
Oh,
at the time. Um,
damn! It didn't draw. It means that. Damn! I'm upset now. We didn't enjoy that junior heavyweight title match. It didn't draw.
yeah. Well, to be fair, that wasn't the draw of the show. It means
Okay,
that
well,
this show not drawing means we're
damn.
not going to enjoy Ric Flair versus Brad
That
Armstrong.
mean that means this badass fucking barn burner Ric Flair Brad Armstrong match is gonna suck. That upsets me.
Yep. By the way,
Oh,
world's
there it is.
strongest backbreaker. By the way,
Oh, he kicked out.
Wahoo is a hefty man. Like
Yeah,
he's not obviously he gets bigger, but Nikolai fucking held him up there. And like, yeah, Wahoo based it, and he posted on Nikolai and everything, but Nikolai still had to fucking hold him up there. That was pretty
yeah.
fucking impressive.
Nikolai's
Um,
fucking
so
strong.
so when Georgia was at its peak, it's when Atlanta had two arenas. They had the Omni, but they also had the Atlanta Civic Auditorium, which held about
Uh-huh.
5,000 people, and that's where Georgia would hold I think they held weekly shows there for the
Yeah,
longest time.
yeah. That
And
was a weekly
then they
town.
Yep, and
Yeah.
then they would run a, semi-frequent super card at the Omni, and that's when they'd
Hmm.
bring in all the big names and everything, and maybe not sell out, but they would do
Huh.
a nice audience. But the 5,000 seat Atlanta Civic Auditorium would almost always sell out, and even if it didn't, it wasn't a very
Oh,
expensive building to run. However, the Civic Auditorium closed, and so they had to move the shows to the Omni. And that's when the Omni stopped being special and just became just another town or just another arena. And
was
now
the
they're
Omni
running.
like downtown?
Yeah, I think it was near the CNN Center.
See, I wouldn't.
Uh,
Have you ever driven through Atlanta, Aria? I
I've
wouldn't go
been
to
to
fucking
Atlanta
downtown
for
Atlanta either.
WrestleMania. I've
Okay,
been, yeah.
yeah.
Oh no, oh my God. And I know this is 2011, so I certainly don't know what it was like in '84. But downtown Atlanta is a beautiful, vibrant spot where,
Hmm.
there's just a whole bunch of great things to see and do. However, the second, the second you get out of downtown Atlanta, it is the most rundown place you've ever seen in your life. Like
Hmm.
when we went there, I don't I don't even remember why we didn't have maybe we missed our turn or something, but we got lost getting back to the interstate to go back to our hotel after I think the Hall of Fame, and we ended up right outside downtown at a gas station, and
Oh,
it was like we need to get back in this car, turn around and go the other way. Like, two two white people in the just outside downtown Atlanta as Wahoo throws the referee down. Um, and if I'm that referee, I'm disqualifying Wahoo. Is it still Scrappy McGowan?
he was
This
it?
company's losing money, and but they're not wasting it
No,
on referees.
no, no, no.
Maybe not, but it's. Oh, he's not disqualifying Wahoo. He just got up
He did.
and is
I think
now.
he did. Bell's ringing. The
No,
bell
no,
rung.
it
No, the
did it.
bell rang.
Okay, I guess this is what happens when you're. But he better like Nikolai better be the winner by disqualification. I know he shoved down
I
the
would think
referee,
so.
but that was after the bell rang.
I would think so.
Yeah. And I'm sure if they do an announcement, and let us know if they do, I'm sure they do an announcement, they'll say it's a double DQ or something. Yeah, he's waving it off. It's a double DQ.
By
That's
the way, I have a
bullshit.
pro tip for you. If ever again you happen to find yourself in a bad part of Atlanta, what you do
Get
is you get your GPS and you type in Barnes and Noble and go where it tells you. Or
okay.
Apple Store, Panera Bread.
Because
It's a stand.
that's where all those boring white people go.
It's a bit by a stand-up comedian named Pete Holmes who talked about getting booked in Atlanta and his agent booked him in like a shitty rundown hotel in like a horrible derelict part of Atlanta. So he said he didn't know what to do, so he just got his GPS and put in Barnes and Noble.
Okay. But my hotel, I remember, was near a Waffle House. First, last, and so far only time I've ever been to Waffle House. Not that it was
Hey,
bad, just that we don't have
George,
Waffle House up here.
I think Waffle House is based in Georgia. It's
Possibly.
yeah, I like Waffle House. I had no Waffle House in a
By the
long
way,
time.
did they raise Volkoff's hand? So Volkoff may have actually won that match.
I think
You
so.
know, we're doing it. He should
Sorry.
have won the match, but we are now magically whisked away to a national TV title match. It is the champion Jake Roberts, whose father, Grizzly Smith, uh, this is the worst thing Grizzly Smith has ever done, is putting his son with Paul Ellering. So it's Jake with Paul Ellering, who's not yet bald, versus Ron Garvin, who is not yet
No,
completely blonde.
no matter how many times I see it, I will never ever get used to seeing Jake Roberts in bell bottoms.
Yes, in the baggy pants.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Paul Ellering looks fat. And I know if he took off his shirt, he's definitely not fat, but that is not a good
No,
look for him.
he he was real thick before he when he was
Yeah.
wrestling. He was a big thick son of a bitch.
Oh, I know I've got a list of stuff that you need to see about stuff that you missed before you started doing the podcast. But Paul Ellering in Mid-South, his promos, this fucking segment that he did. There was okay, so Paul Ellering had like the worst luck ever. Like when we started at the end of 1981, he's feuding with the Iron Sheik and cutting like those great superstar Billy Graham-esque promos that he would cut. And then he fucked up his knee. He repaired his knee, came back, and began doing these series of skits where he was working out with children. And it was the most preposterously amazing thing you've ever seen in your life. We need to go back and watch those. Like, because you would you would lose your shit if you saw those. Like they're that fucking great. Um, but anyway, Jake Roberts with Paul Ellering versus Ron Garvin. Jake has been in the
Garvin
territories. Mhm.
Garvin looks so much younger with longer hair and blonde.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not as it would get blonder, but it was like short and spiky. But that long blonde hair, he looks so much younger.
yeah. Jake's been here since September. He beat Garvin for the TV title in November. And judging by the matches he did, he survived a feud with Pez Watley over the TV title. And Pez multiple times almost beat him for it. Now, this goes to what we talked about on one of the other shows, on the Mid-South show, I think it was. The TV title being defended not on TV. Because,
Mm-hmm.
spoiler alert, this show was not on TV. Um, but yeah. I was like, where the hell did they find all this Georgia footage anyway? Because it's like the last battle of Atlanta was lost until like one day out of the blue they found it in the vault a few years ago, and now we've had well, I guess the Omni show they put up a few weeks ago wasn't a Georgia Championship Wrestling show; it was a Jim Crockett show. But now we got this
Well,
show from the Omni too.
they finally hired somebody to go through all that shit.
Yep, they should have hired me, but oh well.
Ah, hey, I'd do
Um,
that job.
yeah. I think I mentioned this by the way, but they're running the Omni at this point every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And, I get like it's slightly better than running it weekly, but I don't know. Like I don't know what I guess there wouldn't have been a good alternative or they would have done it. But like yeah, um it was not a good idea to be running such a large building as frequently as they were.
Mm.
Um and it sucks to be them.
This
I don't
is,
even know like where they could have gone to be honest.
as we've noted, this is near the end of Georgia
Yep.
Championship Wrestling.
We are, as we mentioned, about 6 weeks away from Vince buying the company. And I mean, it's safe to say though, like, because I mean, Vince didn't just buy it overnight. I think you could argue that it might have been this show where they brought in Ric Flair, the world champion, and still only drew 3,500 people. that this may have been the point where Jack and Jerry look at each other and go, okay, something needs to be done here. You know, let's call Mr. McMahon.
I was gonna say,
Um,
I started to say earlier that we talked on one of the shows the other day about Jerry Briscoe's shed finds. He's been cleaning out his shed. I am pretty sure one of the things that he posted on Twitter within the last few weeks was one of the signed contracts from the Georgia sale.
hmm, I'll be honest, like, 'cause I only really go on Twitter when you tag me in something, for the most
Yeah.
part. Which, hey, keep tagging me. I'll might check it out more. But yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised because he is like he's opening up the Gerald Briscoe vault, which is a pretty damn good vault by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I got an interesting question for you.
What's that?
And I have no idea what made me think about this. Um, but so we know the WCW Invasion sucked. That like
Uh-huh.
so the question I would have is, do you think WWE 2001 would have been any better had they just ignored any idea of an invasion at all? Like they buy WCW, they got the type library, they got all that, they get the 24 mid-carders, Booker T and DDP. But what if instead of doing an actual invasion, they just integrated WCW wrestlers into the WWF umbrella? Like, oh, here's Booker T. You could bring up Booker T was the last WCW champion. Booker T is a former 10-time WCW tag team champion. You can bring that up, but instead of it being a WCW invasion, it's just here's Booker T, DDP, Lance Storm, Mike Awesome, etc., and they're now in the WWF as opposed to their WCW.
No, I would do one pay-per-view where not an invasion, but I would do one pay-per-view where you do shit like Steve Austin beats Booker T to unify the WWF and WCW titles and all that. Yeah, like I would do that stuff.
Yeah, and now, mind you, with my idea, they would not have gotten 770,000 buys for the July pay-per-view, which is still absurd if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, because like that thing was already dying, and they did like the biggest non-WrestleMania number ever for a 10-man tag, where at least eight of the guys, because Rhino was in the match too, where eight of the guys were people on the WWF roster a month earlier.
Yeah.
I'd say, why did the show just go to commercial? I didn't really go to commercial, but
I
like it faded to black and then came back up.
it must have changed film.
Well, it must have been. Yeah,
It
we're about
was
an hour in. Um, that Jake armbar just killed the tape.
oh
Um,
darn.
but yeah, they definitely wouldn't have done 800,000 buys for a July pay-per-view that wasn't the Invasion pay-per-view. I think I would dare say I think the reason why people bought that show is because they probably assumed that there was going to be some big name debut. Because up until that point, like, because the first few weeks of the invasion actually was pretty cool if you think about it. Because it's like, here is Chuck Palumbo and Sean O'Hare and fucking Scott Hudson is doing backstage promos. Like it's like so out of the blue and out of nowhere. It's like it's kind of cool and neat and different. So like, I could see people who bought that pay-per-view thinking that like, hey, maybe Goldberg debuts. Hey, maybe Ric Flair debuts. And
Yeah, well.
instead they get the Steve Austin heel turn. And it's funny because people remember when Austin, because they did that angle where because Austin was a heel after WrestleMania, and they did the angle where Vince was begging the old Stone Cold to come back and save the
All
WWF for the
time great
invasion.
angle. All time Raw moment.
Yeah. Where Austin is in the bar and he's watching the TV where like classy Freddie Blassie is leading the WWF team and like giving them the rah-rah speech. And like it is fucking great. Like
That
and
segment. Oh, that segment when from the moment Austin pulls into the building in his truck until walking to the arena to hit. Oh, just one of maybe my favorite moment in Raw history.
we may need to watch that next on
He
our Friday
may.
night watch along on a
Yeah.
show that doesn't drop until probably like Saturday morning. Um Saturday morning wrestling. Go to back there. We'll watch some American Gladiators and watch some
Yeah.
WWF squash matches. Yeah, we'll call it. We'll have fun here with this. Um. So yeah, that was, and it's funny because like I I think more than anything else actually, because I know they brought back Rock and whatnot, but I think Austin going back heel killed it all over again.
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
and in some ways they kind of had to though, because who was the top WCW guy? Like Booker T, but like unfortunately Booker on his first night injured Steve Austin. He was not going to get that spot to be the number one guy. Like I know he wrestled Rock for a bit, but The Rock fucking wrestled everybody, you know.
Okay. I wanna put things in perspective for you real quick. I know the invasion. We all say like the invasion was bad, and yeah, it was disappointing. Have you ever taken a second to imagine how much worse the invasion would have been if Hunter had been there?
Oh God, yes. I've had nightmares about that.
Yeah.
Um, but I will also say, like people talk about Austin's heel turn at WrestleMania. WWF was definitely fucking on its way down because Austin could have won as a babyface, and who was he going to wrestle next?
Right.
Because like Angle was with Benoit, and I guess they could have just split them off quicker than they were. But I mean, Angle's with Benoit. They just did 6 months of Austin and Triple H. Undertaker, they probably would have turned Undertaker heel. And the funny thing is, the original plan was because if you remember No Way Out, the month before WrestleMania, Hunter beat
Mm-hmm.
Austin in that 2 out of 3 falls match. What was supposed to happen was after WrestleMania, Hunter would turn babyface and feud with Austin. But then they changed their mind and just went with Austin and Hunter as a two-man power trip. And I think changing their mind about that is why Undertaker won at WrestleMania, because now they needed someone to take on Austin the next month. And
Yeah.
well, if Hunter's now going to be on his team, you're not going to put them, you're not going to have Undertaker beat him. So I think that's why Undertaker won at WrestleMania. That was the first time that I remember that they made a big deal about the win
Yeah.
streak.
Yep.
And, you know, so yeah. Um, but yeah, that's where we are. And uh by the way, Ron Garvin showing good babyface fire, but I mean, there's nothing surprising there. As
Nah.
we talk about everything other than Jake Roberts versus Ron Garvin. Um, so I'm just going through my list of uh other stuff to talk about. Um, whether we're built we're starting towards the finish of this match here. Um, so have you ever really watched Paul Ellering as a wrestler? I mean, outside of like, because he did like the occasional WWF, I don't want to say comedy match, but like in 1998 when he turned heel with DOA, defeated with LOD, he did the occasional match. Other than like, did you ever watch any of Paul Ellering while he was a wrestler in 81,
I
82 before?
watched I watched a few months of the Memphis run where he was doing the King thing after Lawler broke his leg playing softball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, I have.
Okay. Um, so you bringing up softball, triggered this memory. So, um, I would say a few years ago, like 20 years ago at this point. And I was living in my first apartment, and it was a small apartment. It was 2 rooms. It was a bedroom and then a living room slash kitchen combo. And so I'd usually have some friends over, and we just sit on the porch all day. And one of my friends went up to the convenience store and got some snackage for us. And she came back. She was walking up the steps because I was on top of the garage, and she tried throwing a bag of chips up, and she missed. It bounced off the banister and came back down. And she was like, "Oh," she made a joke. It's like, "Oh, I haven't played softball in a while," and it became a running joke where you can't do something because you never played softball. And it's one of those jokes that was hilarious when we were 20, and you know,
Yeah,
uh,
feel you.
By the way, Jake was in the ropes because he's apparently Andre the Giant. Ellering got him out, and he kicked Garvin into the referee. We are abusing poor Scrappy McGowan, who I'm assuming is the referee here. Paul Ellering just tried to hit Garvin with a chair. Garvin blocked it and knocked Paul Ellering the fuck out. And now Jake
Oh, DDT on
Roberts
the chair.
with DDT on the chair. This is why Garvin's
I'm
only
sorry.
5'8". Garvin was six
It,
foot
it,
two before this match. Now he's five
yeah.
foot eight.
It keeps wanting me to resync, so I hit the resync button, and then it showed it like resync directly at the DDT on the chair.
So I'm at 104.50.
Yeah, yeah, more like yeah,
Okay.
104.56. Yeah,
Yeah. So Jake Roberts technically did not win with the DDT on the chair. He stood up and dropped an elbow, and then he won.
right.
So Jake
So
Roberts
the
is
winning
still
hold was elbow
was an
drop.
elbow draw. Make sure to put that down in your
I will.
thingy
I
majigger.
will.
Good. As Jake Roberts still your national television champion here on a show not on television.
Hmm.
You know what's funny? Like I'm always surprised that like there never really was an internet title. Like I know Zack Ryder had his,
I know.
and
Yeah.
TNA's kind of done that with the digital media title, but I think they could be making better use of it,
You know
even
what I'm?
before this whole PCO SDL
Yeah.
stuff.
You know what I'm surprised they never did? Like they have never
So,
done a WWE TV title, but I thought that they should have done a WWE Network Championship.
definitely.
Yeah.
I and it's funny because like I remember when NXT and Superstars were on WWE.com, and the only person who ever watched the shows were me and Adam Baranowski, who was the guy that did Superstars for the Observer site. I used to say like because Zack Ryder would bounce back and forth between the two shows, like the internet title should have become a real thing and it be the
Yeah.
NXT/slash Superstars title. Because this was before NXT was developmental. There was not going to be an NXT champion. I remember,
Hmm.
I swear to God, I actually said this once. Like, they're not going to have an NXT championship. They're not going to do NXT pay-per-views. So it's okay for NXT to be a little off the wall and off the beaten path, so to speak.
Yeah.
But oh my God, here is a Hoss match.
Oh
Here is
yeah.
big meaty men are about to slap meat. It is
Yes.
the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, who we've now seen in three different promotions in the last 6 months, with Paul Ellering versus King Kong Bundy and Stan Hansen. Let me repeat that. Hawk
Yeah.
and Animal versus King Kong Bundy and Stan Hansen.
Badass. By
And
the way,
according to my
can I?
timestamps, was that good?
No, go ahead. Finish.
I was gonna say, according to my timestamps, we're about to get 17 minutes of this.
Okay. Okay. I'm in. Well, since we've got time to kill, I want to bring up something on the note of championships that I'm like pedantic about because people get wrong. The
Mm-hmm.
championship in New Japan that El Phantasmo currently holds, the ugly brown belt with the square plate.
The TV title?
Right. That title is not the NJPW World TV title. It is the NJPW World TV title. You understand?
I think I do, but you might
It is
need to
not.
like.
It is.
It's
It is
not.
not
It's not the world television title.
right.
It's the
It is
television
not the
title of
IW.
New Japan World.
It is not the IWGP Television Championship. It is not the World Television Championship of New Japan Pro Wrestling. It is the TV Championship of the streaming service in JPW World.
Yes. I mean the problem is just like you know it's easy to confuse it.
Yeah.
That honestly like I I don't it's not the ugliest belt ever because we're watching Georgia. They've got
Yeah.
awards for ugliest belts. But yeah, like it is not a very pretty title belt.
I kind of like it, but it's not like it's so ugly. It's so ugly that I kind of think it looks cool.
I think it's too bulky. It's too big. Like the front plate, like it's too wide. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of got the, and I mean, it's not quite, but it's kind of got the Daniel Bryan WWE Championship belt vibes, like
Oh
that
yeah,
ugly,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
wooden belt that he had. It's not really wooden, but kind of the wood paneling.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but by the way, Hawk just got knocked down by one forearm smash.
Wow.
That yeah, by King Kong Bundy, as Stan Hansen is just pacing up and down the apron.
I mean,
If I,
you're not gonna not sell for King Kong Bundy even if you're Road Warrior Hawk.
yeah. If I'm Scrappy McGowan, I am staying as far away from them as possible while still believably refereeing.
If I was Scrappy McGowan, I would stand outside and just watch from a distance.
Yes. Where's the referee? He's in the front row by that woman in the red coat. Oh God. So yeah, we've now seen the Road Warriors in three different territories. We've seen them in Mid-South, Memphis, and now Georgia. Do we need to
Yeah.
start watching AWA?
No, no, I don't think that post Hogan AWA is going to be a good use of our time. But no,
You
this
know,
was that
smart.
period that yeah, the
There's
Road Warriors were like one of the biggest attractions in the business. They were going everywhere. They haven't even been to
yeah,
Japan yet. They don't even go to Japan till '85.
damn. And yeah, it's like it's weird because like I'm gonna make a funny comparison here, but I swear it makes sense. They're kind of the Cody Rhodes of 1984. And what I mean is
Yeah,
when
I
Cody
mean,
Rhodes left WWE, he worked everywhere. Like for
mhm.
companies that refuse to share talent, he worked for everybody for a year. And it was
Yeah,
generally the rule. It's like, if you want me, you're going to have to let me work wherever the hell I want, you
hmm
know? Because like TNA, this was when TNA did not get along with anybody. And he was in TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, all at the same time. And then after a year, he, signed with ROH/slash New Japan, which was really the best choice for him.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I remember, and again, sometimes I'm not a great prognosticator, obviously, but um, I remember saying, "What is so special about Cody Rhodes?" Like, I didn't really see it. Like, why is everyone bending over backwards to make an exception for Cody Rhodes? Like, that was like what was
Well, you
killing
fucking
me.
know now. You know now, don't you?
Well, I mean, yeah, but still, it's like he wasn't. Maybe he had an idea for something like All In, but like he wasn't doing All in
Right.
2016.
You know what, man? I got all the respect in the world for that guy. For he didn't
Yeah,
like where he was being used. He didn't like being fucked around. So he went out and got over on his own to the point that they needed him.
him and Drew McIntyre, and I'm sure there are others, but
Yeah,
those are the two that always pop into my head.
yeah,
And
100%.
we talked about this on the show. I almost said the TV show. We don't have a TV show. I almost said this. I think I said this on the show a few weeks ago. I think Dolph Ziggler regrets not doing the same. You know, like when
Yeah,
Dolph Ziggler was being fucked around in the booking in 2015, 2016, he should have left. And like he may have not made the money he could have doing those extra 4 years in WWE, but I think he could have went out and done a Cody Rhodes, done a Drew McIntyre, and go kill it on the indies
I,
for a couple of years. And WWE would have begged him back when they needed talent because, you know,
yeah. I would imagine that he thought he was doing the best thing at the time, but that now he realizes that he would have been better off in the long run if he had done that. Because
he's re
it just
at this
kind of
point, he's
it kind of sucks that he's like, but he's finally working outside of WWE, and then he's kind of like he's a little past his prime. He's still good.
yeah. Like he's not like he only did that real brief run in New Japan, right?
Yeah.
Like he
So the
never
story that I heard, or at least the rumor, was that that got kiboshed quick because of the AAA thing.
Weird.
Well,
Okay. I
it
mean,
well, it's
what?
because New Japan, like New Japan's longest running business partner is CMLL,
Yeah.
so they'll pretty much like if CMLL tells them, hey, this fucking person's looking for working for AAA, don't use them, they're not gonna use them.
Yeah. If New Japan tells you to go home and kill your wife, I'm sorry, your wife's not going to make it. Um, and it's
I
funny because
wouldn't
like
kill my wife.
that- even if New Japan told you to,
Even if Tanahashi himself told me to and tried to hypnotize me with his hair, I wouldn't do it.
that I don't say it would be hard to turn down, but yeah, that like Tanahashi-san's hair, that's kind of mesmerizing people. Um, yeah, it's like he. By the way, I'm sure someone's out there going, "Oh, it just hasn't paid off yet." We have still not gotten any sort of fucking advancement in that stupid John Layfield angle. Like where
That's
he shows up like he he shows up everywhere and there's no rhyme or reason for it. And for a while it's like, okay, he's showing up in Nic Nemeth matches and like for a while he was attacking Nic Nemeth or he was attacking Nic Nemeth's opponents and then he showed up at the TNA show and attacked Ryan Nemeth when Ryan was trying to help Nick. Like, and that was after he took out Joe Hendry at Bound for Glory. So like the
he's
shit
probably
like
uh he's probably dealing with the lawsuit that Ryan Nemeth filed against him after that.
Ryan
So
Nemeth,
fucking
famous
stupid. Ryan
famous
Nemeth, you fucking
actor.
dork. Oh my god, you fucking dork, Ryan Nemeth. You
He
are
like
embarrassing
I,
to be you.
I don't know. I'm not obviously not. I wasn't there, but listening to hear parts of this lawsuit, like, dude, any like you're a fucking like successful wrestler, actor, comedian.
It
Like, okay, there's propping yourself up, and then there's this.
Where the
You
fuck did he
know,
hire this lawyer? Like,
and
did
it's
he
funny
just
because
like
like
go to a street corner and just find a random homeless guy and be like, "Hey, can you write a fucking lawsuit for me?" Like, I
it
can't
was funny
believe
because like
a competent, educated attorney would write that fucking lawsuit. Like, how do you not write that and see how fucking stupid it makes you look?
yeah. Well, what about wasn't there a fucking lawyer? Well, maybe they didn't. Maybe she didn't actually have a lawyer because but Price because who the hell would have taken it on? But when what's her name? Rhaka Khan sued half the fucking world for conspiring to kidnap her child that time.
I don't even
And it was like
remember
she,
this.
you don't remember when she sued The
No,
Rock, Jim Cornette,
no.
uh,
Oh my
uh,
god. Oh, when was
Chris
this? How
Chris
how do I not
Benoit.
remember this?
This is like 3 or 4 years ago. She sued
Oh my
like
god. What the fuck?
that all these people
Oh,
like include like I think Michelle McCool was sued too, and and Chris Benoit was the best. Well, the
been
best,
during
like
that must have been during one
like
of my social media sabbaticals.
let me find here. Not saying that's some more entertaining the Road Warriors versus Stan Hansen and King Kong
No,
Bundy, but
this match is it had the exciting opening salvo and now they're having a little wrestling match and it's not bad. They're Hawk is working on Hansen's arm. That's the left arm. He's working on the lariat arm. That's smart tactics by the Road Warriors.
let me see if I can find it here. Okay,
I'm sorry.
she sued for $3 billion.
Jesus.
And here's a small list of the people that she sued. Are you ready for this? These are the
Yeah,
people
yeah.
sued for trying to keep her children from her. The state of Texas, the El Paso Child Protective Services. Okay, if you're suing because you're thinking people are keeping your children from you, that that would be the two people I would pick, if especially if I'm living in Texas. The FBI, the Las Cruces, New Mexico Police Department, the NYPD, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, New York ACS, whatever that is, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, the Shirley Police Department, surely you can't be serious, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Suffolk County, New York, what the hell did they have to do with this? Dwayne The Rock Johnson, The Miz and Maurice, Heath Slater, Nikki Bella, Chris Benoit, Mark Jindrak, Panda Energy, Home Depot, Florida
Drag dude.
Championship Wrestling. What?
What the fuck did like? Not that any of these make sense at all, but what the fuck did Mark Jindrak do?
You mentioned the meeting. Oh, Florida Championship Wrestling, Steve Kern, the NWA, Billy Corgan, Deep South Wrestling, Bank of America, Michael Jordan, Jim Cornette, Mick Foley, Con Edison. These are all some of the people, places, and things that she sued, claiming that they conspired to keep her children from her for
Okay,
$3 billion.
please tell me that there's a clip of Cornette talking about this on the internet.
There is.
Oh, okay.
There is.
As soon as this show is over, as soon as that is what I'm doing. Oh, drugs are a hell of a drug.
Yes, they are. Like conspiring. Like that's like it's not even just like these people, places, things, and
Okay,
whatnot.
okay. I'm
Got
sorry
together.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt the prolonged interruption that is our podcast, but we just got a King Kong Bundy hot tag, and that is so much more awesome than it sounds like.
Yes. Well, like, because it's King Kong Bundy and Stan Hansen are the baby
Yeah.
faces in this match.
Oh,
Bundy
this kicks
is
ass.
throwing around
Oh, what happened?
Paul Ellering. Paul Ellering, that
fucking Ellering.
motherfucker tripped Bundy.
Ellering tripped King Kong Bundy.
And now we're getting a four-way. And where's Dusty Rhodes? Because clubbering is happening here.
Of all the things that I have never even imagined, a King Kong Bundy hot tag.
Yes. Oh my God, this is fucking fantastic. And poor, what's his name? The referee. This poor bastard is just like, this is not his night. Scrappy McGowan. Yeah. Hansen, like, he doesn't even get out of the ring normally. He rolls out of the ring on top of Hawk. And oh Lord, the referee has thrown this match out. Hansen is now chasing Paul Ellering. The chase didn't last very long. And Paul Ellering is begging his guys to get out. Hansen just did a running knee to Hawk. Oh Lord. All hail our babyface team, King Kong Bundy and Stan Hansen. You know what the worst part of this is? This is the only time these two team up.
Oh.
Like, this needed to go around the circuit. This needed to go around the
Yes.
fucking country. Yay! Man, we did not show that match enough respect. But
No. It was really good at the beginning and really good at the end and fine in the middle.
yeah. So if all you watched was 3 minutes of it, this was another 4-star match. If you watched 17 minutes of it, it was 3.
3, yeah.
3 sounds right.
Yeah.
And now it's time for the main event. The main event.
I can't imagine this not being good.
Ric Flair in his prime versus Brad Armstrong for the World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship. Like, even if all you think of Brad Armstrong is as, a job guy, you know, you have to know and admit that he's a damn good worker. And you take a damn good worker in the ring with Ric Flair in 1984, it's like, yeah, this is, spoiler alert, it's not going to be a 1 hour draw. Um, but yeah, this is just great. Brad is the national heavyweight champion, which is the number one title in Georgia at this point. And he's only been wrestling for 3 years at this point, which really, again, really tells you something here. And I hate again to put down people in 2025, but think of the people that debuted in the last 5 years, even. Are any of them like I didn't even have the number, like nobody even has the number of matches Brad Armstrong had in this period of time, but like none of them are at that level. Those people that have come in since, the debut of AEW. And and unfortunately this is where the wrestling world is, but Brad is wrestling probably 200 nights a year and 3 years in, so he's already got 600
Yeah.
matches.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What
Yeah.
do you remember what year was the Bob Armstrong heel turn in Continental when he did the angle where he slapped Brad? Was that like 81?
Well, I have no idea. Um, Let me see. I can't imagine poor Bob Armstrong. Uh,
Uh,
you know,
it's a
being
really fucking great angle because forever,
uh,
forever, Bullet had been the heel, had been the baby face, and Ron Fuller had been the heel, and then Fuller had
uh,
turned babyface and was gonna
so
wrestle Ric Flair for the world title, and Bullet wanted to be the guest referee so he could be the one to ring the bell for Ron Fuller to win the world title. And then when Fuller had Flair in the Fuller leg lock, Armstrong turned on him.
so it doesn't have a date on the heel Bob Armstrong slaps Brad video, but apparently he turns heel October 26th, 1982.
Okay, that was close.
Yeah. Poor Bob Armstrong. Yeah. Apparently there is a Bullet Bob Armstrong Memorial Arena in Theodore, Alabama.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, there should be.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So hooray for Bullet Bob. Brad
Yeah.
Armstrong. Now, Brad, like we said, has been wrestling 3 years, and I would say arguably of the four Armstrong brothers, he was probably the best one of them all. Like
Yeah.
yeah, he didn't have his dad's charisma. He certainly didn't have Road Dogg's charisma, but he
Okay,
had a
I
certain
have.
amount of charisma. He had
Yeah.
more than
Now
Scott and Steve.
I said this on one of the Smoky Mountain reviews. The deal that other people have pointed out is that Bullet Bob was the whole package. Each of the
Yeah,
sons got like because he had the work, the promo, the charisma, the look, everything. Each of the boys got one thing, and
yeah,
Brad was the worker. Steve got the looks. Brian got the charisma. Scott, I'm sure, pays his bills on time.
yeah. Brian also got the size. 'Cause, like Brian's
Yeah,
not a huge guy. He's like 6'3", but like the other three are like 5'9", 5'10", 5'11". Like if you take Brad
yeah.
Armstrong and you make him 6'2", he's
Oh
world
yeah.
champion, you know. Now, do you remember this may have been part of what led you into taking drugs at some point. Do you remember when during the WWE ECW days, it would have either been 2006 or 2007. I think it was '06, but that doesn't add up in my head. But they tried Brad Armstrong for 2 weeks as a guest commentator with Joey Styles
Oh,
and Taz,
how do I not remember
and
this?
because they buried the
Oh,
fuck out of him, and because
oh.
Vince wanted it to be a three-person broadcast booth, and they didn't want any changes to their team, and so they buried him on the air, you know, and it never happened, obviously. And Brad is one of those guys. because you hear stories, and he's one of those guys you hear stories about where like backstage, he's a really funny guy. He's full of personality and whatnot, but you put him in front of the camera, it doesn't translate, you
Yeah.
know. And we talked about Dean Malenko earlier, and Dean Malenko is the exact same way, where, you know, when you hear
Yeah.
stories, he's a very funny, charismatic guy, but you put him on TV and it doesn't pop.
Yeah.
Um,
People with dry sense of humors like don't translate well as performers a lot of the time.
mhm. By the way, Ric Flair
Senses of
has none
humor.
of these
Yeah, grammar.
problems.
No, no. Uh
By the way, I don't need to sit here and give like a running history about Ric Flair, do I? I think we all know Ric Flair.
that Ric Flair was pretty good at this wrestling bullshit.
Ric Flair's been wrestling now for 11 years. Real name Fred Phillips, or not real name, but his birth name was Fred Phillips. We did that on Tuesday. Happy
Yeah.
birthday to Fred.
Happy birthday, Fred.
Or, but by the way, if Ric Flair ever goes on an anti-transgender rant, I will never call him Ric Flair ever again. He will be Fred Phillips. Um,
Well,
so by the way, I don't know if you want to discuss this because you wanted to discuss it when we were going to have your friend on with us. What's your Hangman Page story?
oh, it was very specific to my buddy Cecil Scott was going to do the show with us, and he had a last minute technical issue. I was going to tell the story because he was with him on the air. My favorite personal Hangman Page moment. I was at Wrestle Circus, and I was talking to Trevor Lee, Cameron Grimes.
Hmm.
And I was just like, yeah, I've seen some of your stuff. I've seen some of the CWF Mid Atlantic stuff. Cecil Scott's a good friend of mine. And Hangman was standing right there and just said in the most appalled voice, Cecil Scott's a friend of yours? So it's like every time I bring that up every chance I get that Hangman Page buried me for being friends with him.
Okay, so if we ever get him on the show, we gotta like somehow set this up or I don't just ask you to tell me the Hangman Page story. You know, we'll
Yeah.
figure out a way to set this up to get on him for it. Uh,
Yeah.
so okay, I made this note a few weeks ago, and then I kept forgetting to bring it up. Um, so Jey versus Jimmy Uso was the worst match of the year, in the Observer Awards, and I vehemently disagree with that
Oh,
because I think it was the most disappointing match, but it was not the worst match I'd seen that week. That would have been Jay White versus Daddy Ass in Worcester, and the match that might still be going on as we speak. So it led to me wanting to ask you, what is the most disappointing match in WrestleMania history? Or at least between the two options I'm going to give you, what's the more disappointing match in WrestleMania history?
okay. Okay.
Jimmy versus Jey Uso or Brock Lesnar and Jon
Oh,
Moxley from WrestleMania 32?
for me personally, it's Brock and Moxley, and it Moxley has told the story that he had an idea for how to start that match, and he pitched it to Brock, and Brock said no, and then later Brock said, "Yeah, that's what we should have done." That was the idea that like Mox, I guess, would come out in a fucking hoodie or whatever. It Brock would come after him, and Mox would fucking mace him in the face and just start kicking his ass. That would have ruled.
But obviously there had to have been like some backstage thing because that match it should have been so much more. And
Yeah,
while it was not a squash match. It was not a squash match. In
no,
some ways, it really was. Like
yeah, I know what you
it
mean.
wasn't, yeah. Like it was 80% Brock, and then Brock just won. I don't even remember if Moxley hit the DDT or not. Like I don't remember him doing much. And that was a really disappointing match because like Brock,
I
I think most of us figured out later because he was getting ready for his UFC fight at UFC 200 that we didn't know about yet. And so I'm pretty sure he'd already gone back into training for that. But whatchamacallit, so he probably didn't want to do much to get hurt. But like I remember that was a match that like, oh my God, this is gonna be this could be match of the night.
Now
Um,
I'm imagining a scenario where fucking they do that spot to start the match, and it's like 5 minutes of Moxley just beating the shit out of Brock. Well, meanwhile, Heyman disappears, and then finally, like 10 minutes later, Heyman comes running out with a gallon of milk to like pour in Brock's eyes.
that could work. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, that I honestly I will always say that was probably the more disappointing match. The problem with Jimmy and Jey Uso, it wasn't even just that they had the disappointing match. It was like they only got like 6 minutes. Like
Yeah. I
that
will
was the
say,
biggest
of
problem.
the
Like
two, this wasn't the question, but of the two, Brock and Moxley had a better match.
I would I think that's an easy argument to make. But WrestleMania Night 1 last year too. That was like it wasn't a bad show, but the time that they gave matches was weird. Like they had that tag match with like Rey Mysterio and Dominic and I forget who the hell else was in the match, but like was all the LWO guys and all the
Andrade
other
and Santos Escobar.
okay, yeah, was that who was in it? Okay. But
Yeah, Ray and
like I think
Andrade against Santos Escobar and Dominic.
it was like 7 minutes. And like the whole point of it
11.
was because oh really?
They
It did not feel that long.
the okay. I am looking at and these were timed with my fucking smartwatch. Ray and Andrade against Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio went 11 minutes and 3 seconds. Jay and Jimmy went 11 minutes and 7 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
Why does it feel like it did not go that long? I don't know, but I just remember that tag match. I felt like the only reason to have it was because they've been doing all those slingshot spots with DJ Z, Zema Ion, whose WWE name currently escapes me at the moment. And like
Oh fuck.
they did it at WrestleMania. You know who I'm talking about.
I did Cruz del Toro, or is that the other one?
No, I
Joaquin
think that's
Wild.
the
He's
other guy.
Joaquin Wild.
Yes, yes, he's walking wild.
Yeah. By the
You can't
way,
tell me that's not.
Brad making a comeback against Flair looks like $1 million. This match is very good.
Yes, this is definitely a world heavyweight title match,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna spoil something for you. Oh, actually, I don't know. I think I saw a GIF of the finish on Twitter, but I think we actually have a finish in this match. You know,
Yeah.
no,
Well,
there's no Von
we
Erichs in
have
this
11
match.
minutes left. We have 11
Yeah,
minutes left.
yeah. There's probably like 9 minutes until the finish.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um, so let's see. Yeah, I've reached all my notes of stuff to talk about. You want to talk about your
So
condom story?
sure, I'll as I'm admiring just one of my things. It's so simple, and he did it all the time. But I love the way Flair works a headlock of like with the like watch Steamboat and Flair, the way they work Steamboat controlling Flair in a headlock. He did that with he's doing it with Brad, he did it with Jumbo Saruta. It was a standard spot, but it's so good. But anyway, so yeah, this is stupid. I almost flipped my shit at the Walmart the other day, and it was just I not to go into too much detail, but I was trying to buy some condoms. And I go to where they are, and they're in a fucking glass box. And you got to push a button to like call somebody to help you. So I do, and I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, fucking employee wanders by, like, "Oh, are you waiting?" We don't have the keys. Somebody has to come from the front. And I said, "Okay." And then she went, and I heard them say over the loudspeaker, "Customer needs assistance in family planning." So I knew that was me. And I waited and waited and waited. And just I was getting more and more pissed off every second. And if I waited like 10 minutes and I finally just left and I went and paid for my other stuff. And then it took all of my self-control. Honestly, had I not been trying to get home before Dynamite started, I would have parked myself at the service desk and demanded that they bring me a manager to yell at. It's because it was but anyway, remember I had waited 10 minutes and found nothing with frustration. So then I went to the Walgreens across the street. And okay, this is everything I did. I got out of my car, walked in, walked to where they were in the Walgreens, took a second to look at the selection, think about what I wanted, make my selection, walk it back to the front, stand there for 2 minutes waiting for the cashier to wander over from the photo desk, check out, typed in my wife's reward number, paid, went back to my car. I timed it. Would you like to guess how long that took me?
4 minutes and 7 seconds.
4 minutes and 25 seconds. You were very close.
Wow. I just like that you are like you're a big fan of timing stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
so do you want to know something weird?
What's that?
So is tomorrow Elimination Chamber or is it Sunday?
I don't know. One of the two,
So
probably.
so now it's pretty I guess well known. Like it's pretty much a foregone conclusion to most people anyway that Cena's winning. And it's going to be Cody and Cena at the in the main event of WrestleMania. Now,
Sure.
um, as you know, for like at least the last decade, there have been online betting you could do on wrestling matches. And
Mm-hmm.
apparently there has been something has happened with the site Bet Online because they have taken the men's elimination chamber off of the betting books.
Oh,
And and typically
somebody
that happens. Sorry, go ahead.
smart money started too early.
Yes. And do you want to know who apparently the smart money is in on? Now, this could mean nothing, or it could mean a weird change of booking. Drew McIntyre. Apparently, a ton of betting
Oh,
money has come in on Drew.
dashing tire explodes. Fuck yeah.
What?
Cody and Drew were tag team champions like years ago.
Oh, oh yeah, for 1 month.
Yeah.
They beat the Hart Dynasty and then lost to the
John
all-time great
Cena
tag
and
team
David
and
Otunga.
John Cena and David Otunga. When there are some people out there going,
The fuck is David
yes,
Otunga?
well, not even just that, but like that was when Cena had quote unquote joined Nexus. Um, and so at Bragging Rights 2010, him and David Otunga defeated Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre for the World Tag Team Championship of the world. And then the next night, seeding, planting more seeds in the dissension of Nexus, Wade Barrett ordered John Cena to lay down to let, I think, Michael McGillicuddy and Justin Gabriel beat them for the
Justin
belts.
Gabriel, Heath Slater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just remember David Otunga's disgusted look on his face that, that happened.
Yeah. By the way, David
Uh,
Otunga, much better lawyer than he is a wrestler. I heard he once got a sodomy charge reduced to tailgating.
you've been waiting for a while to work that one in, haven't you?
I sure have. I sure have. Oh, look, Brad's got
Oh,
flared abdominal stretch.
why isn't he
Oh,
by the ropes so he could grab the ropes for leverage? And don't give me this he's a babyface thing.
okay.
That's what you're supposed to
If you
do.
have if you have ever wondered why wrestlers tend to have long hair and why so many go fucking bright ass blonde, watch Flair sell. Like
Yeah,
that fucking hair, you can tell that he's in pain in the fucking nosebleeds.
yep, yep. He could have a stadium match and make it an arena match. Or he could have a match in a stadium and make it an
Hey,
arena match.
we're gonna see him, I think, sometime in the next year or year and a half, have a badass match in the Superdome with Terry Taylor.
I don't think we're gonna see it, but yes, it's gonna
Well,
happen.
I'm gonna watch it when we get to it. I'm gonna watch it on the Legends of Mid South Wrestling Blu-ray.
That is like legitimately one of the best Blu-rays WWE ever put out.
Yes.
Um, so by the way, Elimination Chamber's tomorrow because I just remembered it's
Yeah.
head to head with Collision.
Yeah. What time does it start?
Well, the pre-show I think starts at 5, but the actual show starts at 7.
Okay, it's a 6 month. Yeah. Okay. We'll see what kind of mood I'm in tomorrow
Yeah.
as to whether
I,
because usually, if there are two shows that I want to watch that are on at the same time, and one of them starts earlier, I will watch the one that starts earlier live.
mhm.
So yeah, usually if there's a WWE pay-per-view day, I'll watch that, then just catch Collision later.
At the moment, there's only 4 matches, and maybe they announced something tonight on SmackDown. Brad Armstrong with a whatchamacallit, Oh my God,
Backslide.
why can I not think? Yeah, backslide.
God yeah.
Oh my God,
Everybody doing Osamu Nishimura tribute shots on this show. I love it.
they knew. They
Yeah, they
knew.
do. Oh, look at Brad. Goddamn. What a baby face. Moved well. Just
Oh my God, that I don't say it was a late kick out, but man, that was close.
that was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah. By the
I'm
way, I
gonna give
keep waiting
Flair
for
the benefit
someone
of the
to,
doubt and say that was very well timed.
I keep wanting somebody to do the natural bridge on this show just to show Horner how it's really done. By the way, Brad Armstrong, the only person in the world who's friends with Tim Horner. Um,
Can we send can we get our hands on Tim Horner's address and I can send him some Sonata DVDs?
why would we want to do that?
Sonata does that O'Connor role better than anybody.
I mean, fine, but like we would need Tim Horner's 1992 address and our time
Well,
machine.
okay, listen. Whoever from Mid South is listening to us via the temporal ham radio, get in contact with us, and we'll see if we can teach Tim Horner how to do a O'Connor role.
The natural bridge.
Yeah.
So, but by the way, if I ever became a wrestler, like when I was attempting to train a few years ago and sucked at it, I always said if for some reason anyone ever wanted me to win a match, my finish would be getting my ass beat in the corner, ass beat in the corner, ass beat in the corner, and then sweep the legs, put my feet on the ropes. So I actually thought that's what
Excellent.
Flair was about to do. But yeah, I have no ego. My thought is if you want me to win, I'd be like, why?
I never wanted to be a wrestler because I know that I have all of the athletic ability of a paraplegic sloth. I just, from the moment that I found out a booker was a thing, I wanted to be a booker.
By the way, this is gonna go. This is gonna surprise people. Ric Flair is very good at pro wrestling.
Let me
Um,
write this down.
like this,
I'm gonna
yeah,
type this.
this is
Rick
Brad's coming off the rope with a
Flair.
crossbody. Flair's rolling through one. He's got his feet on the ropes. His feet is on the ropes. Flair
Oh,
beats Brad Armstrong with his feet on the ropes. Man,
oh, that's
Flair's
good
getting a
shit.
few wins recently. He beat
That's
Chris
good
Adams,
shit,
and now he
pal.
just beat Brad Armstrong. That's good shit, pal. Ric Flair holds up to 10 pounds of gold. He is still the heavyweight champion of the world as our Omni show comes to an end. Um,
Oh,
th this is either the best or the worst watch along of all time because
I mean, I
we
don't know.
really
I
weren't
enjoy
watching along.
doing it. Isn't
Yeah,
that what matters? That I enjoy doing it.
well, we enjoy doing it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah,
No,
we
yeah, I'm
may actually
glad.
have to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we
Stuff
may
like
have to actually
this.
do this again. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. No, this was fun, and it was just
Yeah.
perfect because again, it was funny that I like the reason that I pointed out to you immediately was that it's the same week that we're on in Mid South and World Class, and you didn't even realize that at first.
Because I'm just a fucking genius, apparently. You know? So yeah, that I would say like, even by 2025 standards, that was a damn good show.
Yeah, man, like the Les Thornton Tommy Rogers match, and then that the the Road Warriors and Hansen and Bundy match was like really good in its way, and then the fucking main event was a barn burner. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a pretty decent dynamite.
Like I would have happily paid, $25 in the front row for
Yeah,
that show.
I would have gone to the Omni for that one.
Yeah. Poor
The only
Omni.
way, the only way that this show could have been better is if we would have got to see Larry Labisco in the Omni.
Yes. What the hell was Larry Labisco doing that night, and why was he not in Omni?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let, let's see here.
Let's see.
Not that.
You gonna see?
What?
You gonna see if you can find out what Larry was doing that day?
Yes, I'm looking up Larry Labisco. It turns out there's no one named Larry Labisco, so I'm just gonna look up this Larry Zabisco dude. That sounds about right, don't you think? Um, let's see.
The hardest name to spell that is just the only reason I can spell it is because I burned it into my memory 20 years ago.
So maybe he's injured because he is in Georgia, but his last match was February 16th against David Sammartino, and his next match is March 11th against our good friend Tim Horner.
Okay, yeah. Well, he might have, yeah, might have been hurt.
Yeah. All right. So, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap things up?
Oh, not that I can think of. I just this was this was fun to do.
It was. Hopefully, we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right. All right. So for Trey, I'm Aria. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again sometime in the future.
Bye.